sleep was the best thing we ever did. We slumbered under thunder as it rained down upon this boat that we made with our bare hands are shaking. Now the blue canvas above us has no shades to haunt it. I ran to see where my feet gripped the land. We were stranded on an island shore with warm white sheets of sand. We must have gone mad minutes ago. We were washed with sad. It's sad if we are still unconscious and this is a vision we had. Maybe we never woke up.
The Heritage Trail was created so that the Warren Bermudians could learn about significant places where slaves were in the world. Most Bermudians are descendants from West African and West Indian slaves.
We better not never, 'cause conscious is lonely, but here we could be alone.
1754, there was a Bermudian slave who broke the law, and he was punished to being chained up on Gibbets Island. And he was so hungry after 3 days that he eventually started eating his arms and the flesh of his arms just to survive. He died after 3 days of doing so. His body was then left there for 3 more remaining days to show other slaves what the repercussions were of breaking the law. Legend remains that his chains were able to be seen until 1898.
Late 1600s, there was a slave who burned down his master's house. The master's family was all died in the fire. He was later sent to Gibbets Island to be hung.
It was lonely, but here we could be alone.
Gibbets Island is important to the ADHT Heritage Trail because Gibbets Island is known for gibbeting slaves in Bermuda.
Deal with or take it. Oh, somewhere I'm awake and can't deal with or take it. No, can't take it. Oh, somewhere I'm awake and can't deal with or take it. No, can't take it. Maybe we never woke up.
16 and 1700s, slaves would be publicly executed off of Gibbets Island, so hung or chained, and they would be done so off of Gibbets Island because it was near a popular area, and other slaves could see what the repercussions were for breaking the law.
Gibbets Island is owned by a private trust. Slaves were executed at Stokes Point, Cobbler's Island, Somerset Bridge, and Gibbets Island. The reason was because of this, because the locals were afraid of ghosts, so they thought if you hung a slave on the mainland, that the ghosts would hunt. Today we have Mr. Kemp, our resident history teacher. So our first question is, are you aware of the facts of slavery that they had on Bermuda? And can you briefly tell us about it?
Bermuda slavery was unique in many ways. Being a very small community, the slaves were much closer to their masters than they were in the big agricultural places like the south of the United States. Bermudian slaves, for example, were integral with the maritime trading that went on. They became shipbuilders, blacksmiths, they were skilled workers. They became sailors, mariners, navigators. And so they were, that made Bermuda slavery quite different.
Okay, thank you. Can you name any organizations that allow people to become more aware of slavery in Bermuda?
There are a few. I mean, there is the African Diaspora Trail, which is one. And in making available these various sites around Bermuda, it helps to remind us of what the history is there. I think CURD, too, is another group, Citizens Unearthing Racism, is one that isn't specially focused on slavery, but to the extent that racism is somewhat a product of slavery, they're also involved, and they're both very good organizations.
Do you know any of the significance that the ADHT had on Bermuda?
Well, they were, all the sites are celebrating, if you like, I suppose, a degree of heroism exhibited by the slaves. So I think it is a very good, it's a very good idea. I'm happy they've done this.
Okay. Do you know the consequences that the slaves had to face if they broke the law?
Well, they were various and they were severe, and they ranged from whippings public whippings to public executions. It seems odd to me that slaves were very valuable, and they cost money and they were valuable. So if they were executed, it was just to make them an example to the rest of them.
Do you know any of the places where they were executed?
I am aware of some of them, yes. I mean, there is Gibbets Island, Somerset Bridge. So these were not very nice places.
Okay, what do you know about Gibbets Island?
Again, just that it was a site where executions did take place.
Is there anything else interesting about slavery in Bermuda that you know?
As I mentioned earlier, the fact that the slaves were quite close with their masters is quite something. If slaves went to sea and sailed with their masters, then there was a certain bonding that took place. If you go to sea in a small boat with all the perils and difficulties, you become quite close. So slaves would have benefited greatly by going to sea with their masters.
Okay, thank you for the interview, Mr. Kent.
You're welcome.
Come to see the African Diaspora Heritage Show. The ADHT has locations right across the island. The place we will discuss today is Gibbets Island. This is an island just in front of Fred's Inlet. Gibbets Island has beautiful fish and wildlife in the area. Gibbets Island is one of many places in Bermuda where slaves are openly executed and tortured. Some of the places include Somerset Bridge, Stokes Point. The area is gorgeous and you should really visit.